Tonight we have joining us Brad. Brad, how are you doing? Welcome to the show.
Hey, Craig. Thanks for having me on. How are you
No worries.
doing?
Thank you. Thank you for taking the time. I do appreciate it. Why don't you just take a couple of minutes, introduce yourself to the people and let them know why it is you are a flat earther.
I got you. Hey, everybody. So about 6 months ago, I had a friend approach me about this exact topic. I was very caught off guard. I didn't know what to think. I was like, that's ludicrous. It's ridiculous. And I set out on a course to try to debunk him. And what I found was it became harder and harder because all the questions I asked about the topic, about the heliocentric model and about the flat earth model, they could all be kind of explained. And I researched it for 5 to 6 weeks, watched a lot of YouTube videos, read a lot of books, a lot of content, including the Bible, and came to the conclusion that, like, wow, it is possible to brainwash people at an early age and indoctrinate them into thinking we're living on something that we're not.
We are YouTube University. Lower your guard and surrender your mind. We deny your globe and will bring you to our way of thinking. Your scientism will die and you will service us. The earth is flat.
And after carefully examining all the evidence, like, I'm pretty confident now in the position I'm taking as being someone who thinks the earth could be flat.
You serious?
So that's kind of where I am and where I stand, and hopefully I can convince some of you tonight in this conversation we're about to have.
Oh, thank you. So, who would you say within the flat earth community is your biggest influence?
So I've watched a lot of things from Dave Weiss that kind of made sense. Eric DeBay and his 200 proofs. I've seen some great podcasts with some former pilots on there, some people in the Navy, some people high in government, some people that have left NASA, all admitting to, yeah, the Earth's flat. I mean, obviously now you also have people around the world coming out, celebrities, professional athletes, and other like-minded individuals making that same kind of assumption as well, that, yeah, it is possible. So, I mean, over time, I guess it's been 7 years now when it's kind of taken the forefront of discussion, and there's more and more content out there which is being censored. It's like, why would they censor it? It's not true. So, like they do a lot of things. So, the first thing I guess I want to touch on is the people that created the heliocentric model, or Copernicus. He's one of them. He came up with this idea in the 1540s, I believe, and a lot of people laughed at him. They said, that's ridiculous. You know, 1,500 years ago, everybody knew the Earth was the center of the universe. 500 years ago, everybody knew the Earth was flat.
It's false.
And then Copernicus comes along with this idea, looking up in the sky and seeing stars and saying, oh, those look like balls. We must be standing on a ball too. But the study of land and our land is geography. It's not astronomy. So he made an assumption. Everybody laughed at him. Those papers were hidden for a while. Then after he died, they were published, and the Catholic Church took it over as, this is what we're going to teach in schools.
Nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition.
So it kind of became a mainstream talking point amongst the Catholic schools, and was spread throughout England, other parts of Europe, and then made its way over to the United States, obviously at that, or later on. But for many years, actually, the flat earth was taught up into the early 1900s. And there's people still alive today that said that they learned that in schools. So that was one of the things I looked at, was the history of it. I looked at how it changed and why it changed. And one of the biggest things was in the 1950s or 1940s, after World War II, the United States brought over 1,600 Nazi scientists. Many of them started NASA.
It's a made-up tale.
And NASA is, I looked at NASA too. They've got a lot of deception going on there. A lot of people don't realize, but NASA in Hebrew means to deceive or beguile.
No, God! No, God, please, no! No! No!
So they had a lot of things that just didn't make sense. And I could tell that they were lying by watching their videos, and it just didn't add up.
We are YouTube University. Lower your guard and surrender your mind. We deny your globe and will bring you to our way of thinking. Your scientism will die, and you will service us. The Earth is flat.
Including the International Space Station, the Apollo 11 moon landing, which is one of the biggest hoaxes, and just looking at their astronauts is what I call them. That they really don't have a clue what they're talking about. They're just there to tell a tale, tell a story, and that people believe in, and because they've been brainwashed at such an early age. I mean, we were looking at the globe and sphere when we were kids in our nursery, in our baby beds. And that was the first thing we learned in school was here's Earth, this is what it looks like. And we never really learned the details of things. And then later on, we find out that they say Earth is spinning at 1,040 miles an hour, but we don't feel it. It's moving around the sun at 66,600 miles an hour, but we don't feel it. And there's a force called gravity that we can't measure it. And we don't really know what it is other than what one of the scientists created gravity, saying, oh, it's a force that we can't measure, but we know that density, pretty much if you drop something, it falls through the air. It's because it's denser than air and it falls. And if it floats in water, it's because of buoyancy. All that stuff was solved years before Isaac Newton came up with gravity. And then even Albert Einstein had to come up with a theory of relativity because they debunked gravity years later, saying with the Michelson-Morley experiment, the Bedford level experiments with the curvature of the Earth. There's been all kinds of experiments throughout history, but a lot of the stuff just gets shoved underneath the rug, to the back burner, etc.
Every word of what you just said was wrong.
And looking at, a lot of the pictures that NASA has of Earth from a distance, you can tell it's CGI.
CGI.
You can tell it's an image. It's not actually a photo. And it even says on all their photos on the NASA website, or not on all the photos, but on everything that you see on their website, it says image. It doesn't say photo. So that's like another tell sign that somebody's not telling the truth. And on those images, you can see the clouds look like they've been copy and pasted. It's the same set of clouds from the blue marble in the 1970s to the 1990s. It's like they really didn't even take much time to think this thing through. They just put together all this nonsense and throw it out there because everybody is so mesmerized by it. They've been brainwashed since they were children. So that's the only thing they know and they realize. Then you have a bunch of other scientists, modern science, of these guys using high-powered lasers that can go across a long, plane of land or a long body of water, and it shows absolutely zero curvature. What should be, thousands of feet of curvature, you don't see that. The target can be hit by a laser 30, 40, and 50 miles away, which doesn't make sense because there would realistically be a large curve of land there or a large water in the way. And even a lot of these people coming forward from the federal government that trained, there's been documents released by our US government, by Russian government, by the English government. In training, they say assume non-rotating flat earth, and all these documents that were released because of the Freedom of Information Act. So you have to take that stuff like pretty literally. Like why would they train people that it's a flat earth for weapons systems, for flight, for submariner, for everything? And then years later when these people retire, they come out and say, oh yeah, the Earth's definitely flat. And we knew about it, but we weren't allowed to share it because it was part of our non-disclosure agreement. It was part of my top secret clearance or secret clearance or whatever.
Did you say you assumed?
Yes.
So people are coming out, the truth's getting out. Another telltale sign for me is when I flew to Florida. Back in September, I waited till the end of the flight. I asked the pilot, hey, do you guys account for curvature of the Earth or spin or rotation or anything like that? He's like, no, it's a flat plane is what we fly over. And I said, he's like, hence the term airplane, a machine that flies in air over a plane. And I was like, yep, that's what I thought. Makes sense.
Now comes the part where we throw our heads back and laugh. Ready?
Ready!
And then I asked another pilot in December when I flew again, same situation. The other pilot agreed with me, Earth was not a ball. So after that, and hearing that and putting it all together with the text in the Bible and the verses where it talks about the Earth is sits on pillars, the Earth cannot be moved, it's bound at its ends, so forth. You know, you just have to consider all those things as well as water. Water's a big one. Water has to have a container, okay, to maintain level. And in that process, so if you think about your flat Earth map, large bodies of water at rest always maintain level, period. So that's the biggest tell. They can't magically, you know, bend around a ball that's spinning. That just doesn't make any sense. Scientifically speaking, at least. So I'll let you take it from here. I think that's about the biggest things that I've noticed. There's a lot of other little details too, but I know you guys have probably heard Vinny as well.
What do you say? What? Okay. Oh, good bird.
NASA in Hebrew. Where did you hear that?
So if you look at the Concordance Bible, okay, there's the app. It's called a Blue Letter. I'll pull it up here on my screen. Blue Letter Bible. See if I can find it. Blue Letter Bible.
What does the pendulum prove?
The pendulum proves nothing. It proves that when you can swing a ball back and forth or anything, if it's magnetically charged, it's going to move around.
Oh, cool. Magnetically charged. So let's look at this one that's made out of plastic, shall we? This is the gentleman scientist, and he wanted to test Foucault's pendulum theory, right? So he built his own Foucault's pendulum using some concrete and some plastic and a fishing wire in a local high-rise building. Now, if the Earth is rotating, like we say, then a pendulum's drift will correspond to the amount of to your latitude, right? So this pendulum swung with no magnetic assistance or anything. It's not magnetically charged. It's got that plastic wire around it. It's made from concrete and it's got a plastic wire holding it up. And it swings backwards and forwards through this ink pad, tracing its path. But over time, that path starts to drift clockwise, which is what we would expect if it's in the northern hemisphere. He only gets it to swing for about 44 minutes because, you know, gravity and air resistance end up stopping it. So a simple bit of maths to figure out how long it would take to do a full rotation, and then a bit more simple maths, and you can actually calculate your latitude on Earth. So what they did was they measured the final angle that they got, and then they times the angle by the period of rotation. So the period of rotation 0.688 hours times 360 divided by the angle. T is 31.4 hours, and then you times for your latitude, you get the arc sine of 24 hours divided by T, and you can actually calculate your latitude on Earth. So that's what they did. They calculated the latitude of 49.8. They were about 1.4 degrees off, which is an error of margin of about 0.4%, which is fucking good. Thing is, this corresponds to the other two bits of evidence that I have shown you about the Earth's rotation, both fiber optic and mechanical gyroscopes. So I've got one simple question for you, all right? I'd like you to try and answer the question directly. Why is it every time that we attempt to measure the Earth's rotation, at least in the 3 times I've shown you there, we measure the Earth's rotation, And it matches each other. They all correspond and say the same thing. I can even use the Earth's rotation to calculate my latitude on Earth. How is that possible if we aren't rotating?
I just tried to explain this to you, okay? The Earth does not move.
The crazy guy that worked with electricity that didn't think electrons were a thing. Yes, we've all heard of Nikola Tesla. He wasn't a flat earther, in case you're wondering.
He wasn't. Now,
no, he was not a flat earther. He wrote books about radio transmissions to Mars. Nikola Tesla was not a flat earther.
I understand that. I'm not going to say that. So let me finish talking and do not interrupt me. So one of his inventions was to try to harness free energy, okay? Now, he was going to do this through the energy that we already have. Like I was saying earlier, the sun is a positive charge, the moon is a negative charge, and the salt water, or the water, is a conductor of electricity, and there's energy moving through the Earth out into the atmosphere and back down. It's like a giant ecosystem, okay?
So what evidence do you have that the moon is negatively charged, just out of interest? How has that been confirmed?
It's made of plasma. There's been multiple scientists.
No, it's definitely not made of plasma. I've bounced lasers off it. But even if it was made of plasma, that wouldn't make it negatively charged necessarily. Why? What evidence do we have that the moon is negatively charged? Because of course we'd be able to measure that. So what scientific endeavors have been taken to measure the negative charge coming from the moon?
There have been. Okay, one is the brightness of the light. One is the brightness of the light coming from it. Let me explain.
Yeah, okay? That's not anything to do with negative charge. That's about 2% instant reflected light.
It's not reflected light.
I mean, you can literally measure it and test it, but
the sun has its own light. The moon has its own light.
No, you cannot have shadows in craters on something that generates its own light.
They're not. How do you know they're shadows?
Because I've looked at them through a telescope. They're definitely shadows.
Right. We can all, but there's only one. We only know that there's only one side of the moon.
Plasma doesn't hold its shape like that, right. So it's definitely not plasma.
We only know that the moon has one side. One side.
No, China have a rover on the other side right now.
They see a different angle of it, but it's still the same side.
No, China literally have a rover on the other side of it right now.
The moon does not rotate at all.
It actually does rotate, but its axis of rotation happens to match with its orbit around Earth. That's why it's called tidal locking. Approximately 72% of the moons in our solar system exhibit the same behavior.
Okay. No, it doesn't.
It does. No, it doesn't work here.
The side of the moon and the dark side of the moon. We don't know that it rotates. We don't know. Okay, they want you to believe.
We can literally see the precession of it, but
Right. So scientists have to. So you put your faith and trust in a guy with a white coat that calls himself a scientist without actually going back and looking to see if what he says is correct.
Would you agree that science is repeatable?
Okay, do you wonder? Yeah, science is repeatable.
Yeah, science is repeatable, right. So we have repeatedly sent stuff to the moon. There you go.
We have not sent anything to the moon. Nobody's gone to the moon, ever.
Disagree.
It's all a hoax.
Neil
Armstrong came out in an interview with a 5-year-old.
No, he did not.
And said they never went to the moon.
Wrong, 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 wrong. Wrong, 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 wrong.
Why has nobody been to the moon in such a long time?
That's not an 8-year-old's question. That's my question. I want to know, but I think I know. Because we didn't go there, and that's the way it happened. And if it didn't happen, it's nice to know why it didn't happen, so in the future, if we want to keep doing something, we need to know why something stopped in the past that we wanted to keep it going. Money is a good thing. If you want to buy new things, new rockets, instead of keep doing the same thing over, then it's going to cost more money. And other things need more money too. So having achieved what the president wanted us to do, and then what thousands, millions of people in America and millions of people around the world. You know, when we toured around the world after we came back, the most fascinating observation was signs that said, we did it. Not just us, not just America, but we, the world, different countries. They felt like they were part of what we were able to do. And that made us feel very good.
No, he did not.
You want me to pull up that video?
What did he actually say? He was talking about going back. He was talking about going back, wasn't he? Because she asked him, why have you not gone back to the moon? So he started explaining why we've not gone back. Yeah, we haven't gone there. We haven't gone back. You're right. And that's my question. He was talking about the fact that it's money and everything. But he spent that entire interview telling her about how he went to the moon and what he did whilst on the moon. So maybe I need to look at the context of what he was saying.
Right, explain this.